topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Geeks, Geezers, and Googlization Show, the home of Googlization Nation, where we talk with HR and business thought leaders about the crazy shift going on in the world of business, technology, and HR. Here's your host, Ira Wolfe.
Hello, Googlization Nation, and welcome back to another episode of Geeks, Geezers, and Googlization. It's been another crazy week, as it is every week, living in the age of Googlization, living on the exponential curve. My wife and I just got back from Indiana. We were at the Indiana SHRM Conference, the HR Indiana 2021. And we want to thank everybody. I was shocked. I talked to a couple people. We were all surprised. They had a very, very large attendance live, close to 1,000 people that were there. They had some that signed up just virtually, but it was a really wonderful conference. I want to thank everyone who attended my session. We had a standing room only session talking about recruiting in the age of Googlization. So really pleased that we were there. Trip was uneventful. Flights were full. Everyone was masked in back. So it's still a little inconvenient doing all that travel, but fortunately we're getting back to some of those in-person events and had a great opportunity, but very, very impressed with the Indiana SHRM. So congratulations to that group. And I want to thank everybody who participated and attended my session, and which leads into something that we're having next week. Because of so many people having other questions, not only from last week, but over the last course of a year, and especially with the labor shortages that we're facing, having a webinar next Thursday, August 12th. It's called Your Playbook for Recruiting in the Age of Googlization. That's probably going to be a series. You can sign up. It's free. You can go to bit.ly/RAG Playbook Webinar. It's RAG, as in Recruiting in the Age of Googlization, RAG Playbook Webinar. It's bit.ly. You can also go to up on my website and it'll be there. So it's free. If you have any questions, you can just reach out to me also on LinkedIn or just go up to the website and reply. And if you can't get the link, we'll get it there. So that's one. And then last week had an awesome turnout for another webinar we had done, which was Reimagine Tomorrow, about how to adapt and grow and thrive in a FCDD world, frustrating, confusing, disappointing, and distracting world. That is available on the replay as well. So you can go up to bit.ly/Reimagine Tomorrow. So that's available. It's free. It's on the replay. So obviously not a whole lot of interaction you're going to be able to do, but we'll be repeating that as well. So again, make sure you sign up for those two webinars. And before we get to today's guest, which is Dick Finnegan, we're going to be talking about the Stay interview. I met Dick just a few weeks ago. We were on Tune In Tuesdays, which is SHRM's monthly TV show. I had a great conversation there, and then he was on Geeks Geezers and Googlization, and we just had a few minutes, so I invited him back, and we're going to have an expanded talk about Stay interviews, which are incredibly powerful because in addition to the labor shortages, not being able to hire people, we have the Great Resignation going on, really, really unprecedented rates of employee turnover, and Dick has been focused on that for years. He's got one of the best-selling books from SHRM. So he'll be joining us in a second. And then following that, we're going to have Sri, hopefully I'm pronouncing this right, Sri Chalapa from Engagely. They just announced their 100 top HR influencers of 2021 list. Some big names on there, such as Angela Duckworth, who wrote Grit. You might be familiar with her. Adam Grant, who wrote Rethink. You might be familiar with him. He was actually the keynote. He was the opening keynote at the SHRM meeting as well. Josh Burson, anybody in HR space is probably, and HR tech is probably familiar with Josh, and quite a few other names. And I am humbled to be included in that list. So I was named to the top 100. So I invited Sri on the list just to talk about how they developed it, what they found, what the trends are, and again, to personally thank him for being there. But without further ado, I want to reintroduce Dick Finnegan. His company is C-Suite Analytics, and we'll show you how to get up to his site. But Dick has written quite a few books, and one of the most popular books ever. I think it's the most popular book, isn't it, Dick? For SHRM.
Yes, top-selling book in the history of SHRM.
Yeah, and
mind-blowing to me, but true. Yes.
Congratulations on that. So this is your time, just as the labor shortages. I've been talking about this for 21 years. Started in 1999 with the perfect labor storm, and then wrote 2 books on that, and that evolved into Geeks Geezers Googlization, and then to recruiting in the age of Googlization. So I've been talking about this day would come when it was going to be very, very difficult to hire people for lots of reasons, not just one. I know everybody points to unemployment benefits, and they point to those darn millennials, and they point to the internet. They have all these reasons why. And the reality is it's all of them converging. It's a little bit of all of it, but times have changed, and they're changing fast. But on the back door is you can hire people, but you got to keep them. Otherwise, it's just, again, it's that revolving door. It's that flywheel. And you've been focused on the back end, which has come to light because now they have a name for the period of time, which is called the Great Resignation. And people are leaving in record time. So I know you have some questions that you have to ask people, but did you see this coming? I mean, I had to, from the perfect labor storm, we saw this coming, didn't have an exact date that it would arrive, but 2021 sort of sums up perfect labor storm. If you had written a book on the Great Resignation, would it have been now, or some of the things that are happening now surprising you?
Who knows?
Good answer.
But what is surprising to me is we did not rehearse this, but you said flywheel, which is my favorite word out of Good to Great by Jim Collins. And I was going to talk about doom loop, which is another phrase out of Good to Great. So when you said that, I went, ah.
Well, we are of a certain age. When that was the book. If you didn't read that book,
and it is still the book for me. It's a great book. So let's kind of go one piece at a time. So it is a wild time because we're so focused on trying to find people, and that's that whole mass of things. More people retired than we expected. Many parents, mostly women, are still out of the workforce taking care of the kids. Some people took like a 12-month time out to rethink their lives. More people became entrepreneurs, all that stuff. Mm-hmm. So all that's out there. But it's like we high five each other when we hire somebody, but we forget to low five each other when that person quits. and as a CEO recently said to me, it's a doom loop. You can keep filling jobs if you can, but the net number of workers doesn't change because you're filling jobs and people are leaving jobs. And throughout all of recorded history, and I don't mean BC times, but I mean the last 50 years or so, there has never been, think about this, this is the tale of 2 Aprils. In April of 2020, unemployment reached its all-time high, and the growth from the previous month to that month was its all-time high. In April of 2021, the number of employees who quit was the all-time high. The number of job openings was the all-time high. So if you're an employee, you have to be thinking Do they love me? Do they not? How do I know I can trust them? What is happening here? And so we've been whacked around by a recession that was officially just 60 days long.
Yeah,
But
it's amazing.
nonetheless, so you sit here today, Ira, and there's lots of things I can't quite understand. Here's the one I cannot quite understand the most. Unemployment is 5.8% today on August 4th. The Wall Street Journal a few months ago published a projection that by year end or early 2022, so let's say in 6 months, unemployment would be 3.2%. So I don't know how you go from 5.9 to 3.2 like that. But also,
let me just jump into there. Is this probably because I know every time we do that, you go, well, as soon as the unemployment benefits, 300 additional unemployment benefit, now we're just weeks away from that ending. We're going to have this flood of candidates coming back in the workforce.
Right. Studies have shown the states that already cut it have seen no change.
Oh, exactly. 27 states, no response.
It's had nothing to do with it. But to get back to 3.2%, just to make one more point, 3.2% is far lower unemployment than we've seen this century. The lowest in this century has been 3.5%. So anybody who thinks this is going to get easier is out of their minds. It's not going to get easier.
Let me just talk a little bit about that because this is important. Why that's happening. So part of it is the unemployment rate is based on the number of people that are looking for a job, based on the number. Well, it's based on how many jobs based on the number of people looking. Right. Part of the challenge is that the men's participation rate. These are just two numbers, and I don't want to spend the whole time on this, but just two quick numbers. The men's participation rate has dropped from 67%. Meaning of all the eligible working age adults between 25 and 54 years old, the core part, the men's participation rate has been declining for 40 years. But over the last few years, it's just collapsed. And then with the recession, over the last year with COVID, it's dropped to 61%. So there's about 6 million men who just disappeared out of the workforce. Part of it's because they don't have the skills. Many of them are people of color. Opioid addiction, because that's taken care of. These people are just not qualified or out of the workforce. But the bigger one is women. Women had increased their participation from about 35%, like 50 years ago, to almost into somewhere in the 60%. I don't remember what the peak was. It dropped in a year down to 51%. So there is a loss of about 10% of the participation rate. Part of that is rethinking careers, still home with childcare, entrepreneurship, all those things you mentioned. But women over the last 50 years have now get 60% of all the advanced degrees. So the group that is skilled workers are women. They have the skills we need to go forward. And yet they are significantly opting out of the workforce or forced to opt out of the workforce because of all these other things. So that number is very real. Are there enough people in the United States and around the world who can do all the jobs? Absolutely. We've got a skills gap misfit. We've got societal problems. We got discrimination problems. We got distribution problems. We've got people in areas where the jobs aren't. So it's complicated. It's complex, which also means, leading back to your story, we absolutely, if you hire somebody and you have good talent, you absolutely have to keep them, because finding a replacement is it's exceeded my expectations. I've been studying this for 20 years, but you hear labor economists that are doing this their life, and they've never experienced anything like this. And
we could do a whole separate show on one word, which is infrastructure. Because when that thing happens, I mean, you think about how rough it is now. Anybody who works with their hands is going to have more job opportunities than they have today. And so are engineers, and so are software people. I mean, it's just, so let's take our time that we have today, and move it from this is a massive problem and an unexpected one to what do you do? Okay, to solutions. Yeah. And here's the trick. If you go back over 20, 30, 40 years, whatever it is, you study HR people, you study SHRM, you study the industry, there has never been a solution for employee retention. And I'll go so far as to tell you, if you go to SHRM's website and they list their 10 emphasis areas, retention isn't one of them, because I suspect they don't know what to say. It's like people think, well, we study pay because people stay for pay. We do exit interviews, which I write a weekly blog, and I wrote one week recently and said, are exit interviews more like autopsies or toe tags? And the answer was toe tags. They're gone. That's all you know. You're never going to know exactly why they left. So there hasn't been a solution. So what I did, I'm a therapist by training. I'm a recovering HR executive. I was once an HR executive. I got challenged by my CEO to cut turnover. It was a big banking company. I said, look, you got hundreds of these branches. The only variable is the boss. Same chair, same pay, same benefits, same customers, same bricks. It's all the same thing out there, but the boss. And so we tracked turnover by branch. We went out to the branch managers, did roadshows, said, you have a goal to cut turnover. They said, oh, no, it's health insurance. It's my favorite thing to pick on. We don't have pet insurance. It's all these things. So 4 months later, turnover fell 19%. We saved over $4 million just by having a report with their name on it. There's no question. And now, and I think, I'm speaking at the SHRM conference in Las Vegas. My topic is 7 proofs that leaders and not HR drive turnover. So now, now I've done lots of stuff since then. But along the way, when I got asked to write a book, I asked a professor to tutor me, a professor of industrial psychology who had a strong interest in turnover. I said, I want a fake PhD in turnover. So I have a fake, it's not on the wall, I have a fake PhD in turnover. But I spent months reading academic journals and studies about what really cuts turnover. And so we invented a solution that consistently cuts turnover 30% and more. And I could name you corporations. I could give you references, 30%, 30%, 47%, 58%, 62% over and over and over. And at the key to this, what I use the word keystone, is stay interviews. Because the number one reason people stay or leave, or for that matter, engage or disengage, is how much they trust their boss. Now, just as an aside, Deloitte says we spend $1.5 billion a year on engagement. Gallup says engagement hasn't changed since they started tracking it 21 years ago. Where's the misfit? Well, it's because we spend the money on the wrong stuff. If you're not spending money on leaders to build trust, you're spending it on the wrong stuff. So if you're having Employee Appreciation Week, Employee of the Month, more town hall meetings, more events with food, career day, it's not going to change anything. And that is the rub. On the other hand, what we have found is if you want to cut turnover, and I know you're going to put our website up at the end, if you want to cut turnover, convert turnover to dollars, to wake up your executives, get your CFO involved in turnover because they think it's an HR thing. It is consistently the second or third biggest expense in major corporations. CFOs, they're looking for coins on the couch. They have no idea that there's this $1 million expense happening out there. So convert it to dollars, set retention goals for leaders, train them to do stay interviews, train them to forecast how long each employee will stay, build accountabilities for are they making their goals and are they developing accurate forecasts. And only after we did years of work to build this did one morning realize this is how companies manage salespeople. Salespeople are accountable for achieving goals and developing accurate forecasts. So operationalizing retention works. HR, go fix it, is a bust.
Well, fortunately, things are moving in that direction, especially with the SEC now saying, hey, if people are your most important asset, prove it. Show us. Where are the numbers? Recruitment, retention, the value of an employee, the productivity of an employee. If you can be very productive, but if you have a lot of employees, that number keeps going down because it keeps getting replaced. Dick, I know we have a relatively short time today, but so I want to talk about what does if we accept that stay interviews work, because they do, you have the research, you have the proof.
Right.
What's a stay interview look like? Is it just having a conversation, hey, let's have coffee together and let's talk about, hey, how things are going? Yeah, things are good. Yeah, good. Glad to hear that. Appreciate it. If you ever need anything, just, my office is open. I assume that's not what a stay interview is.
Yeah, that was pretty junky, what you just said.
But I'm sure that happens a lot.
But you set up the contrast well. So it's a very structured thing, and it requires training because leaders need very specific skills. So the opening is to say, I want to have a meeting with you to learn what I can do to make working here better for you. When I developed this whole concept, I jokingly said there's only two kinds of meetings at work. Did you do your work? And here's more work. And that's it. And so there's nothing that happens from the bottom up except at the end of a performance review, 3 questions. How you doing? Like you just said. So it's a meeting. I want to have a meeting with you to learn what I can do to make working here better for you. There are 5 questions. And if you're viewing this, you don't have to write this down. Go to our website, email me, I'll tell you the 5. But there are only 5 you need. The 5 are, when you travel to work each day, what things do you look forward to? Because we have to get them into the here and now and learn what matters to them. The second one is, what are you learning here? If you're in your 5th day, you say, I've learned this, I need to learn that. If you're in your 5th year, you say, I don't want to learn nothing, I just want to go home, which is okay. Or I am not learning anything, I'm bored. And so we train, how do you manage that? The third question is, why do you stay here? It's this sneaky question put in by the therapist here, because we want employees to think about this, discover within themselves the reasons they stay, and announce it so they hear themselves say why they stay. Hear themselves say why they stay. If I'm the leader and I know the answer to 1, what things do you look forward to when you commute to work? 3, why do you stay here? I can begin thinking about, how do I make this person's job 5 degrees different to give them more of what they want? 4 is, when's the last time we thought about leaving our team? What prompted it? I want to know on a 1 to 10 scale, how important is it to you? What do I have to do to fix it? 5 is about me. What can I do as your leader to make working here better for you? Those 5 questions will get it. But you have to become expert at not just asking questions, but listening and probing and taking notes and asking probes based on what you hear. So when we train leaders, we say, you're going to walk out of this room being a listening, probing, note-taking machine. You're not going to talk about you. You're going to listen and probe and take notes. Solutions will come to you. And I'll add one more thing, Ira, about solutions. And I think you and I might have talked about this before. The real issue isn't what employees put on engagement surveys. The real issue is what they talk about over dinner. When you leave work and you're tired and you're emotionally unintelligent and you feel in a safe space, you let it go. And that might be with your family, that might be in a bar, that might be talking to yourself in your car, but you let it go. That is what determines whether people stay or leave. And what people talk about over dinner, and we all know this, is their boss, their colleagues, and their duties. That's where they are. And a couple months ago, a writer in Forbes quoted me on this and said, let's face it, it's all about bosses. It's all about bosses.
Yeah, as you were talking, and your focus on the stay interview, and I know, I can hear the not the objections if people say, yeah, this is really, really important. But we just had an interviewing session. We taught people how to interview for candidates, but they don't. They teach them how to ask, what are the right questions, what shouldn't you ask, what's the decorum, what's the etiquette. But they really don't teach them how to interview, because how to interview is mostly listening. It's asking the right questions and then sitting back and then probing. And I always say it takes 3 questions, and this comes from sales. It comes from 3 questions. You have to ask. You ask one question, and then you follow that up with another question, follow up with another question, but they're all related. It's going down a funnel, not necessarily saying, well, we have 10 questions to ask, so we're going to go from 1. Oh, we got that answer. Now we'll go to 2. We'll go to that answer. Oftentimes, people will say, "What do you have 3 interview questions?" I say, I only need 1, because how the person answers the first question, how they respond to that question, will determine what my next question is.
That's smart.
Right? And you keep probing. So the value is whether you're training people to interview, if you use your model, that stay interview model, you'll help people become better front end interviews for the job candidate and the back end, or vice versa. So I think the power of interviewing is really interesting there. But the other thing is, when I heard Adam Grant the other day at the keynote, I was reading his book at the same time, which is Rethink, because we talk so much about unlearning, rethinking how we learn, reimagining our tomorrow. And his book's exceptional with that. But he talked about, during the keynote, the power of the re-entry interview. So as people are coming back to work, think about it. So they're still an employee, but now as they're migrating to, they're either one way or the other. They're either moving toward a remote, they're moving toward on-site, or a hybrid. Having some type of re-entry interview, and your principles. I mean, because I know what the questions were for today. The stay interview principle works tremendously with a re-entry interview, because that's the risk point of people go, well, I don't know if I want to come back to work. I don't know if I'm going to like the hybrid. Understanding what would make your number 3 question, what would make you want to leave based on our decisions?
Right.
Nip
right.
lots of somebody in the bud.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, I would circle back and say, if I were watching this meeting now, I would say, boy, stay interviews are good, stay interviews are good, stay interviews are good. And they are. But they only work if you convert turnover to dollars, to wake up your executives, to get their buy-in, and then set retention goals for leaders and hold them accountable. If you don't do that, this is the flavor of the month, and it will not grow legs. It will not stick. But once those leaders understand they have got to keep people, and they're going to be told if they don't, somehow they develop the skills better, and it really matters.
And I know HR, one is HR needs metrics. They've been the only function in the company that has somehow gotten away from that. I mean, I always ask the most popular question. I just asked it the other day at my session, and we had a tremendous response to it. And it was, how many people start an application and don't finish it? Because, hey, we need more money, nobody's applying. Well, maybe people are applying and your application gets in the way.
Right.
It's a process. More than half said, I have no idea. That's a problem.
Right.
I mean, on a key thing. So applying metrics, and just the final comment on that. It's not about being driven by the metrics. It's not having the data or the data making your decisions. It's following the data. It's, hey, if we have turnover, why? And what information are we tracking? What are the metrics? What's it costing us? Let's follow that down the pipeline. How can we remove it? So again, I urge everybody to follow the data. Dick, our conversations go incredibly fast. I know for anybody who's going to be at the SHRM Annual, you're going to be out there. What day are you speaking?
Sunday morning mega session. I think 9:15.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah, good. Yeah. I'm speaking on Friday, recruiting in the age of Googlization. So anybody who's there, you're on Sunday. Out in Vegas. Hopefully the Delta virus comes down a little bit by then. How can people get a hold of you? I know there's two. You have your company site and your personal site.
Right. Yeah. The absolute best way is, this is a lot of letters, is D as in Dick Finnegan. You can see my name on the screen. D Finnegan at C-Suite C-suiteanalytics.com.
Okay.
So I'm going to say it out loud. It's lots of letters.
I think we have the C-suite. I think we have
Do you have it?
I think so. There it is.
There you go.
Yep.
There you go. Write to me. You write there, write to me, dfinnegan at csuiteanalytics.com. Finnegan is F-I-N-N-E-G-A-N. If you make it I-G-A-N, you make me Scottish. My late father would be very disappointed. So dfinnegan at csuiteanalytics.com. Thank you, Ira. It's always fun to do this.
Yeah, I have a feeling we're going to be talking a lot about this because, again, I'm focusing on getting people in the door. You're trying to close the
right
bar the back
slam
door.
that door. Right.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely. So I appreciate it. Hey, good to see you again, Dick. I know you and I will be talking in the next few weeks, probably before the conference. Stay safe. Good luck at the SHRM, and thanks very much for joining us today.
Sure, and I'll see you there.
Yeah. Okay.
Take care. Bye.
Okay.
Bye, everyone.
Fascinating conversation, incredibly important. And again, as I heard Adam Grant on Monday talk about the re-entry interview, which I think is a brilliant idea, I immediately thought about Dick and his 5 stay questions. And those questions can really be turned around also and asked at the front end. I think they're great interviewing questions. So please look up Dick's book, Dick Finnegan, Power of Stay interview. He also has a couple different versions of that. If you're going to the SHRM conference, please catch him out there. We are going to have another great guest in our second segment. We're going to be talking about the top HR influencers, top 100 HR influencers of 2021 with Sri Chappelle. And we will be right back. Thanks for listening to Geeks, Geezers, and Googlization. Stay with us. We'll be back in a few minutes.
A lot of you might be feeling like you're standing in deep shift. But do you know what grows and rises out of deep shift? Opportunity. To successfully navigate the shift to the new normal, each of us must learn to rapidly adapt to the speed of change. Some of us are hardwired for this. Others, not so much. That's where Success Performance Solutions can help. Success Performance Solutions is now your AQ headquarters. Whether you are personally struggling with the next chapter in your career or wondering how ready your team is for fast, disruptive change, our AQ assessment and coaching will provide you a detailed, scientifically backed roadmap to guide you into the new normal. Optimize your adaptability today. Contact Success Performance Solutions about evaluating your team's change readiness or joining our upcoming AQ Masterclass. Visit successperformancesolutions.com or call us at 800-803-4303.
Hey, welcome back, everyone. Welcome to Geeks, Geezers, and Googlization. I was going to say Googlization Nation. We are part of Googlization Nation. We have a second guest lined up, but unfortunately, he's not here yet. We were going to talk about the top 100 HR influencer list from Sri. I always mess up his last name, and I apologize to him, Shalapa, and from Engagely. So hopefully Sri will be here soon. But let me just talk about that just for a second. Sri's company is Engagely. For the last 5 years, they have they've identified through nominations and also their own research, and they have their criteria, which is what I want to talk about. And I don't know enough about it to, other than what I've read, to determine how they selected it. But I was one of those that was honored by that. I was selected as one of the top 100 influencers. And what made it so special, there are a few people up there that are well-known names. Some are way beyond HR, in fact. We have Angela Duckworth, who you've heard me talk about many, many times as we talk about adaptability. You saw the adaptability commercial there, the AQ commercial. Grit is one of the 5 abilities required that are essential abilities that we need to build our adaptability along with grit. But another person that was on there was Adam Grant, which we just talked about, and he has done extensive research. He's the top professor at Wharton School for many years, and his new book, Rethink, is about unlearning, the power of unlearning some of our behaviors that just don't serve us well. And unlearn is also one of those features, I keep saying features, one of those abilities, one of those core skills that are essential for our ability to adapt to this effed up world, this frustrating, confusing, disappointing, and distracting world, this age of Googlization, the world of exponential change, whatever we want to call it. We need grit, and we need resilience. We need unlearning. We need growth mindset. We need mental flexibility. And that was our topic last week on the webinar. Roxy, if you can throw that up there just for those who might have missed it. We talked about reimagining tomorrow, and the replay is still available. It's for free. And the replay is you can access by going to bit.ly/reimagine tomorrow. So please go up there and you can learn a little bit more about grit and resilience and unlearning and all that fits in for sure. But in addition to the HR influencer list, I'm just going to check to see if he had contacted me and doesn't look to be the case. So hopefully something, I don't know if it's a technology issue or something came up in his schedule. But as, again, when I saw the list, I scrolled down. Another popular name in addition to Adam was Josh Burson. For anyone who is in the HR space, HR, especially HR tech, Josh has certainly been one of the top influencers in many people's lives, and had worked with Deloitte for many years, and he's on a few different ventures. But with being named with Josh and Angela and Adam, like I talked to them like they're best friends. But Josh Burson, Angela Duckworth, Adam Grant, and so many other people. Many of them were guests. Many of the people were guests on our alumni, I guess we can call them, of Geeks Geezers and Googlization. So I want to extend my congratulations to everybody that was named to the list, and I encourage you to go out and get there. If you can scroll the banner there, Roxy, maybe across the bottom, of how you can access that. You can also go up to my website or just search for Engagely. Cerie's website is engagely.com. And if you go to the site and then scroll down about the middle of the page, if you don't want to type that long URL out, the listing is there. And they've done this for 5 years, and the most recent list just came out. So again, I thank everyone for being there. Doesn't look like Cerie's going to make it here, but it just, so let's talk about what's coming up next week. We've got the webinar coming up, Playbook for Recruiting in the Age of Googlization. Again, another free webinar, 1 p.m. Eastern time. You can register for that by going to bit.ly/ there we go, RAG Playbook Webinar. We're expecting a huge crowd. We have a lot of people that have signed up from previous webinars. We're going to be focusing on one aspect. We're going to try to make this a bit more interactive. It's based on my Recruiting in the Age of Googlization webinar and presentation, where we talk about the reach. We talk about how to improve the candidate experience. My REACH acronym is REACH. R stands for how do you reach people? How do we source people? What are the best websites? What are the best job boards? But also many other principles. A lot of people ignore the career site. The career site just becomes a tab on your company website. Not very engaging, not very enticing, not optimized for search engines, so people don't find it when they're looking for jobs, or it defaults to the ATS, the applicant tracking software site that this provided. Unfortunately, those sites, because they're technically subdomains, then we get into all the IT, you as a company don't have the ability to optimize those, to have those rank higher in the websites. They may look good, when somebody lands there, but they don't help you attract people. So there are ways to help you reach more people. And then once they get there, how do you engage them? And again, a paragraph or just a listing of jobs without any text, without images, without any design for readability or for visibility, and certainly without some type of optimization. And many are not mobile ready. There's many of these sites, they don't view well on a mobile device. And when 96% of all adults in the US under 30 years old, 96% own a smartphone. The only device, the only connection, the only way that they can possibly hear about your job opening or learn more about your company, if they're interested, would be to pick up their phone and search for it. And if your career site or your jobs or your application are not mobile ready, there is no engagement. They're just going to pick up and leave. And then certainly the application, which is the A, so we have reach, engage, and then apply. The apply is probably the number one fallout. Even when companies are doing a good job with reaching and engaging and people click to apply, the challenge with the apply button or submitting the application is that the rates of abandonment, people who start an application and don't complete it, are incredibly high. The rates are on average are about 50%. Many companies that aren't tracking it are finding 75 to 90%, which means anywhere between 3 out of 4 and 9 out of 10 applicants who say, yeah, I'm interested in applying, and then they don't finish it. That's a particularly good, important number to know. And in the recent survey that I just did at one of the conferences, more than 50% of the people that were attending, they're looking to how do we recruit better? How do we secure talent better? They did not know. They had no idea what that completion rate is. So if let's say you have 50% of the people who apply drop out, in order to get a higher number of applicants, you either fix that, or you work twice as hard, or you have to get double the budget for sponsored ads. If you have a 75% abandonment rate, that means you're going to need to work 3 times harder, almost 3 times harder, 2.5 times harder. You're going to need almost 4 times the money, because only 1 out of 4 people actually complete the ad. So that's significant. Very few companies have that much time and that much money just to waste and pour it on. So we have to become much smarter. Companies have to become much smarter. So improving the application is probably the number one challenge that recruiters are going to have. We're going to talk about, we'll be talking about that a little bit in the playbook in the webinar next week. The conversations, the C is conversation, before and after, and that's part of engagement, a little bit of an overlap there. But once somebody applies, there should be no ghosting on your part. You need to get off the cold and corporate communication of, hey, thank you for applying. We'll be in touch with you in a few weeks. And then the candidates should fall into the void, into that HR black hole. But also before, there's a lot of people that are having conversations before, even if somebody doesn't qualify for the job, because they may know somebody who does, or maybe there's another opening down the road. But you want to have good vibes. You want to have good people talking about a good experience, not a bad experience. And so that's the C. And then the H is hire. And the job hiring does not stop at the job offer. It requires onboarding. And the H, the onboarding process, people are finally getting it, that you can't have people just show up on the first day and expect them to become familiar or be comfortable. And that's one of the reasons people don't like that first day. It's a new experience. It's strange for them. It's stressful for them. So what are the ways that you can make it comfortable rather than coming in and filling out 32 different forms that they have to complete? and then no one seems to know that they're there, or the manager's rushed, or their desk isn't ready, the computer's ready, their tools aren't ready. What are some things that you can do to make that experience better? So all along the way, from reach, engage, apply, converse, and hire, what are the steps you can take to make that candidate experience better? And we will be talking about that. We're not going to be in the next webinar. We won't talk about all of them, but we're going to get a consensus of what are some of the biggest issues, and we're going to focus on those. And then I'm considering, if there's enough interest, to have that maybe as a monthly webinar, having groups come together and we can share solutions, but also we can have a guided conversation. So again, Playbook for Recruiting in the Age of Googlization, next Thursday, August 12th at 1 p.m. It's free. You can go to bit.ly/RAG playbookwebinar.com, or not.com, just webinar, bit.ly/RAG playbook webinar. Sign up for that. Hope to see you then. I want to thank Dick Finnegan for being our first guest today. Dick's company is C-Suite Analytics. We talked about the stay interview. As we talked through that, I love the idea of the re-entry interview, as people were bringing people back to work, or moving them from physical to remote to physical, or some type of a hybrid. Be able to find out where they are, what's their mindset, what's troubling them. Are they considering leaving? Because we are having this great resignation. So Dick Finnegan's Stay interview, you can pick up the book as well on Amazon or through SHRM. And or if you're going to the SHRM conference, you can see Dick live. He'll be Sunday morning, I believe it's September 12th, and he will be presenting out in Las Vegas at the annual SHRM meeting. For all of you who are part of, who are loyal listeners, thank you. I really do appreciate it. If you're not part of Googlization Nation yet, please sign up, googlizationnation.com. It is free. You will get updates about the webinars and the guests and other events, and planning quite a bit in the future. So until next week, don't let the shift hit your plans.